hair and bald.
Okay, ready? Give her the man's business cut. The old man's business.
There you go. That's a good song. What the music to it? Girl, playing your song, Randy.
Should have given her a mohawk first.
Oh no, this is better than the mohawk.
You still have to remember, I do. It does come back.
It does.
Yes, sometimes it comes back early. Yes, it does. I love you.
Oh, you're right. That's so much better.
Yeah, so much better. Way better than mohawk.
By the way, you're gonna look like when you're 80. That's what my dad looked like. That's my dad's haircut.
What do you think?
Not everybody.
No? No? All right.
Do I look like
I
an
think
old
it's
man?
because we had to clean up around the neck and the ears.
Proving that not everybody should go bald.
At least you have a nice shaped head.
Don't suck up to me, I already like you.
I'll be fixing this later when it grows back in.
Now, I do want you to know that Judy Luthy has offered to henna my head. And I have to tell you that, you know, we didn't do things like that when I lost my hair before. There was no such thing, but I'm going to take her up on it just to see what it's like. Hopefully I'll never have to do it on purpose, you know.
How long does it take hair to grow back in? I've never.
You know what? Honestly, it depends on each person, and it depends on what type of medication you're on. It really does. So it's different for everybody, but I'll have sprouts. Probably within 2 weeks I'll have enough to. I mean, to me it's no big deal. I won't even. I'll probably scarf it just because it's cold.
Nice.
You'll be able to see the whole thing.
And this is my friend.
Yes. Right.
Being bald is A-OK. Be bold, be bald. October 17, 2014, goal raised. 500 was the goal. We're now almost to 700, and it will keep going. Thank you for the challenge, and thank you for all of my friends and family that were willing to be part of this.
Tell your story.
My story, you know what, I assume that everybody knows it, but I was 14 years old, and I found a mole on what I would say is my breast tissue, but I didn't have any breast. And I was embarrassed, but I said something to my mother, and my mother took me to a pediatrician who sent me to a specialist, and he removed that mole in the office on his table, and he found a lump on my other breast, which he removed, and they were both cancer. And at that time, like I said, there was no treatment. I didn't know any better, but I remember him teasing me, saying, "You're going to be the only girl in your school with eyelashes on your boob," because I had little stitches. He tried to make light of it, and I started taking this pill, and I took that pill every day for 5 years, which we now know as tamoxifen, but I was a guinea pig at the time. And it wasn't until I was 22 years old that I found another lump. I do have fibrocystic breast disease also, so it's difficult to find a lump. So I found the lump, I went in and had quite a surgery and had that removed, and that required a radium insert, which as a nurse I worked in labor and delivery, and right outside in the hall there was a radiation chamber, and I would go into that chamber, take my lunch hour, they would insert a radium pellet in an opening in my breast. I would be there for an hour, they would come in all garbed up in that suit, take the pellet out, leave me there for a half an hour, and then I'd go back to work. I didn't say anything to anybody because for those of you who are cancer survivors, you just want to be normal. You just don't want people asking you all the time how you feel because you feel like crap and you're scared and you're trying to stay positive and you don't need that, so you want to be normal. And then the third time I had another lump and I went in and more surgery. But in between then, I believe I was 38 and I went in. Every time I had a mammogram, it was like, come back in, have another mammogram. I never just had a mammogram and it was okay. So I went in this time and they said, doctor wants to do a deep tissue ultrasound and then he wants to see you, don't leave. So it was at Lutheran Hospital and I had the mammogram and I went into the back and he put the x-ray up on the light box and he said, look at it. And it just looked like a shotgun had gone off in my left breast. And he said, we know what this is, we just need to go. And I said, okay. So he set me up for chemo and radiation. Went in and had the markers inserted, 12 biopsies. And we're ready to start chemo and radiation on the next Monday. That was a Friday. I'm still in shock over it. And on Monday, I was supposed to be there at 1 o'clock. And at 10 o'clock, a nurse called me and she said, Randy, this is about your treatment for cancer. And I said, okay. And she said, you don't need to come in. And I remember just sucking air because I thought, is it that bad? Because it looked horrible on the screen. And the next thing I heard was her going, Randy, are you there? And I said, yeah. She said all 12 biopsies were non-malignant. It was just calcium, and we've never seen anything like that. You don't need any treatment. So that was pretty exciting to me. But then again, I had all these markers inside me already. So I love to go in and have a mammogram. Of course, I have to have a yearly. It's not an option, but for those of you who are waiting until you're 40 years old to have your mammogram, I would have been dead by then. Fight with them. You do have the right. Because by 40 or 45, I would have had it 3 times. They only found my thyroid cancer because I knew something was wrong. They had watched for, 3 years, 8 specialists. Nobody could find anything. And the last specialist, I remember, he handed me his business card with his cell phone on it, and he said, if there's anything that we can check that we haven't thought of, then call me and let me know. And I thought, you know, the nurse in me was like, really? Really? That's it? So I thought, you know, I'm just losing my mind. There's nothing wrong with me. So I'm taking care of my mother in Toledo, who's dying of her second cancer. And it came home after about 3 months, and I had this little golf ball on the side of my neck. So I went down to my doctor, who I had raised from a pup, and I thought, you know, he'll at least listen to me. So I went in, and I said, here, it's on my neck, look at it. And he said, I think it's just a plugged salivary gland. And I said, well, with my family history, can we just do a ultrasound and check? And he wasn't real happy with me. And he stopped back in the room, and he said, they can do it at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And I said, that's great, I'll stay. So I stayed in town, and I went to Parkview North, had my ultrasound. And by the time I got to Toledo Hospital, my mother's oncologist was standing outside, and she said, he was pointing to me, come with me. He said, you were right, come with me. And he took me over for a CT scan. And 2 days later, they removed the largest thyroid tumor they've ever removed at the University of Toledo Medical Center. And I had the largest dose of radiation they've ever given for thyroid cancer and set a new precedence for treatment. Of course, I was glowing at that point. I couldn't be near anyone. I had to go into a hotel room, and they couldn't even come in and clean my room for 8 days. Then I had to come home and stay in a separate room by myself in my house at the other end of the house for 8 more days. And then they wouldn't let me be around crowds. So thank God for social media. You know, at least talk to my family. But it was highly unusual just to know that when you know something's wrong and nobody else will listen to you, it is not in your head. you just need to go to somebody to take care of you. So. And here I am. Now the oncology team calls me from Toledo and tells me what I need to do. That's how they found the lymphoma on the back. It's actually on my back, just above my right butt, and it was about this wide and very deep. So it's not like anybody saw it, but I had that surgery, and the next day I was standing at a conference in Toledo at the conference center teaching for Mary Kay Career Conference, and my training was about what's your excuse. So, I think what it's done is it's changed my attitude, and I'm less tolerant of stuff, and all stuff is little stuff in the grand scheme of things. But it's allowed me to meet a lot of people that I would not have met, and it's allowed me to help a lot of people. But your money helps a lot of people. You have no idea. That 1 cent may be the answer that keeps anybody from ever getting cancer. I just pray that happens. I want cancer to get cancer. Thank you. So much. And why would I not let her do my hair? That's what it's all about. So